What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Thought Provoking Conversations. I am your first host here, Irvin Ramirez, and to my left, Mr. Yair Puente. How are we doing today, sir?
Oh, living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Hey, that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, man. That's all.
Maybe, I guess you could ask for a couple more things, but
Yeah, you could, but look, you don't have to go down that route right now.
um, so this week we decided to do a follow-up episode from what we did last week. If you haven't checked that out, the link will be in the description. And there'll be a playlist at the end to see all of our episodes in general. But we kind of really enjoyed what we did last week, so we thought, hey, why not do another one? And we were having some really good conversations, and there were some questions we didn't really get to, so we thought we might as well just keep it going and kind of, keep those conversations going that I think were fun and very reflective for both of us. So yeah, it's just another segment of just us asking questions back and forth that we both have to answer. These questions are not disclosed to the other person, so we each come up with questions, but we don't disclose them to the other person. So we kind of make them. So we're prepared for half of them, right? And we're not prepared for the other half. So that's what keeps this fun. But yeah, any other words before we get going?
Oh man, no.
No?
We can just hop right into it.
All right, cool. Are you starting us off, or am I?
You should start us off.
Okay.
I think we want to start off strong, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Start strong a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. So there was a question that I didn't ask last time, but I kind of want to start with a different question because it's been on my mind. So we did an episode a while back, and we talked about the content we consumed, right? And I performed very poorly in that episode. I just didn't really have a good grasp of what I gravitated towards and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to touch on that again, but in a more recent way. I just kind of wanted to ask, is there anything you've watched lately, or listened to, or whatever, or read that has had you like thinking like at a deeper level about anything in specific, I guess?
Hmm. It's an interesting question, and it's something that recently I've kind of been just chilling with the conclusion of my academic year and
Mm-hmm.
just currently doing some training right now. And, it's nothing crazy, nothing that demands too much of me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, I've done a couple of things like haven't watched as much YouTube as I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been watching a lot of Naruto Shippuden. It's interesting. My wife really got me onto that,
Mm-hmm.
and and at the same time, I've also been trying to read more about the Gospels and the life of Jesus, just because it's come up in so many different facets of my life, and I've said that I've wanted to learn more about it,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's kind of been said before, from like persons like Carl Jung, which is a philosopher slash psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
into the that kind of peered into the consciousness of the human being and kind of began exploring in there, and kind of what is the things that really pull the strings of a person, and to that, how do you learn about it, how do you change it, and what's a good example of what and of how you should live your life. And
Hmm.
one of the things that he mentioned that, that I think about a lot is that the symbology and the examples set through by the life of Christ
Hmm.
um, holds a example of how one should live their life. And and I feel like a lot of people have said that. It's like live like Jesus, right?
Yep.
It's so easy to say that, but what the hell
What
does
does that
that mean?
mean? Yep.
Yeah, what the hell does that mean, right? And so, I've been kind of trying to go through and learn a little bit more about this because I've had a lot of people talk about it,
Hmm.
and but I've never gone through and try to research it myself. And I think it's something that's really interesting,
Hmm.
um, because it's like whenever I do, and don't think that just because I've been saying that I've been getting into it, it's been easy.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where I know I should do it, but I don't.
Hmm.
And but regardless, like the other day, for example, I couldn't sleep at like 3 in the morning. I woke up and I was just like, fuck it. You know what? I can try to go back to sleep, but I know it's gonna take me like 2 hours to go back to sleep. And then by then, if I do successfully go back to sleep, I'm gonna have to wake up an hour later, and then I'm gonna
Hmm.
be all tired and groggy, and I'm not gonna want to get up, and it's just gonna be rough. So I was just like, you know what? I'll just get up now that I feel fine. And I was like, well, what am I gonna do at this time?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I shaved because I needed to shave anyways because it was the day of the week, and then
Yeah.
I went ahead and I just like washed my face, drank some water,
Hmm.
and then I was just like, you know what? I'll grab the book. So I turned on the lamp because we don't have central lighting in our living room.
That's
Um,
wild.
yeah, it's I don't know these metropolitan apartments. I don't know what they do, but they give you like 3 light bulbs in the whole apartment. But no, 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 it is what it is.
Hmm.
Um, and I started reading it, and it was just really interesting because like I had a lot of questions, and um, I'm really happy that uh, Shadid is able to help me answer those questions.
Yep.
Um, so like one of the questions that I kind of had was, how do you handle temptation?
Okay.
Because like it was having me reading the Gospel of Matthew, and
Hmm.
I'm not trying to make this into a biblical thing, right? I'm just saying like this was what I was learning, and it it really made me start thinking about it as like where Jesus goes to fast for 40 days in the devil in the desert, and he is tempted by the devil at that point, right?
Hmm.
Seems like a pretty well-known story. And so it's like but what did those things actually mean, right? And then there was this one part that said, um, when you it's like taking the temptation and and changing that perverse energy into something that is like morally correct and transforming it. And I don't know why it stuck out so much because it was like one of those things. It's like when you resist, it persists, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
how many times have I gone through life and rather than, you know, accept that that's what it is, I just try to change it, right? I just try to force my way, kind of manhandle my way through a problem or through something that I'm struggling with personally. It's like, oh no, fuck it, I just got to push through, right? Just got to
Hmm.
push through. I just got to keep going. It is what it is. And, that kind of mentality for me kind of got me having that mentality all the time. I'm not saying it's not right sometimes,
Hmm.
but, being able to have another tool in the toolkit and just being able to accept whatever it is and then trying to change it from the inside, right? You
Hmm.
know, it just seems like something that I don't know, I never really thought about,
Yeah.
or maybe I did thought about it, but this was another way of looking at it. And so I had a nice conversation with Shadid because she woke up like an hour later, an hour and a half later, something like that. And I got to asking her a bunch of questions, and she kind of told me what she knew and what she thought about it, and it was just able to give me a different perspective on it. But um, I don't know, it was really helpful to be able to see that. And um, and yeah, so I mean, I guess to answer your question, right? That's a long-winded answer, but um,
That's what we do here.
th- that's kind of been one of those things that I've been looking into just a little bit more,
Hmm.
and it makes me think a lot, right? Like going to church on Sundays,
Hmm.
um, just having conversations, asking questions, just been those kind of things that have really, yeah. I'm gonna start trailing off because I'm gonna start rambling. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop right there for right now. But um, man,
No, that's good. It's always interesting to see what our mind will kind of hang up on, right? Like, because we consume things at all times, all throughout the day, right? But then sometimes, um, our bodies or our minds or our soul or whatever it is will latch on to something, right? Like it's like, okay, it's time. Like you subconsciously get interested in something, or your body is subconsciously be like, it's time for you to learn about this now, or start seeing this in a different way. Um, so it's always interesting to see kind of where your mind goes when that kind of stuff happens.
hmm yeah, man, for sure. I think it always you saying that made me think of the saying where it says when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. I think it's probably something Confucius said or the Buddha or
Probably.
something. I don't know, but it's intriguing. Like how many times you can see the same message over and over again, and then one day you look at it and it says something different, and you're like, I swear this has never been here before.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something that's super interesting, and it makes me even more intrigued to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah. So I watched Hamilton. I watched it a couple times now, and the thing that I always get hung up on is the last song that finishes out the musical. That where where they're kind of remembering Alexander Hamilton after he like dies or whatever, and then like George Washington is singing the song about, let me tell you what I learned when I was young and in search of glory, and it's um like the chorus goes, um, you don't get to choose who lives, who dies, who tells your story, and it's had me just contemplate the concept of legacy just a lot in general. Cause just those three small phrases, right? It's like of just you don't get to choose who lives, who dies, and who tells your story. And just it's made me contemplate like what kind of legacy I want to leave behind, how how the things I do will look to people, right? Will it be worth? Will it at the end be something worth even talking about, right? And that's not in like a the world whole world type of thing, but as into the people who knew me, right? Am I going to be worth even discussing, right? Like did you like the saying of um, people won't remember um, what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel, type of thing, right? It's like, did I do enough meaningful things in my life to have impacted someone on an emotional level, not just a surface level? So I've been really like just contemplating that in general. And yesterday I got interviewed for um, a radio show that Moy connected me to John Schrader, and he does a radio show, and he works at the College of Journalism, whatever. Very, very decorated journalist, and he's back in Nebraska now. But more connected us because he likes to highlight like immigrant stories now because he thinks that people that look like us don't get highlighted enough. We get talked about enough in the media. So we got to talking, and then yesterday we finally got sat down for an interview for his show, and the different questions that he asked me about, well, why I started this whole feel good digital media, and just asked me my purpose, kind of how I got to even doing this, and then kind of asked me about my life story. Then I was just kind of telling my story, and and I don't know, it meant more to me this time when I said it than it normally does, and me telling like my life story always gets me emotional, regardless of when I'm telling it, but with my concept of just thinking of my legacy, it just made me reflect on my own life even more and just it made me more gracious for the things I've experienced. As hard as some things may have been, that I'm very happy for, all the different experiences in my life. And, even during the interview, as I was talking, I kind of had like a third person moment when I was just still talking and I just love, but part of me like kind of sat back and was like, wow, like I'm getting interviewed about what I do, right? Like this person here wants to share my story. And it was a very surreal type of moment because it's like who am I to get that opportunity, Um, but I like allowed myself, and this was kind of the last question that we asked on the other video was like, what are we, what are we proud of, right? A moment that we actually allow ourselves to be proud of, and like yesterday was one of them. In my mind, I was just like, sometimes I get caught up in other things or, not giving myself enough credit. But then at that point, I just kind of step back and I'm like, wow, like, this is pretty cool. As small scale as I still am, like, there's still people that are interested in my story. And I think it meant more to me because I had been kind of caught up on that whole concept of legacy and how my story will be told when I'm no longer here type of thing. And the concept of death is something that I think about a lot. Um, of just how long I'll be around for, how to make the most of the time I have. And it's not like I'm dying. Like at least now that well, we're all dying, but not in any faster rate than anybody else. But there's that's a whole other tangent I can go on that I won't. But that was just my thinking regarding my own death. Um but yeah, it's been a cool last week really. It's when this has all been kind of going on. Um and I think it all started because of really reflecting on that musical. So it was interesting how that's what got me to reflect on that again or in a different way.
How long did it take you for you to catch that part? Did you catch it on the first
Oh,
pass?
for
Other
sure.
pass? Yeah.
For sure on the first. And then that's why I just wanted to watch it again to see how the storytelling went. And, but yeah.
Um, that intrigues me. Do you happen to have any movies or shows that you watch multiple times, like something that you've seen before?
There's a lot of things that I don't do it as much as shows because there's so much, like, there's so many episodes and stuff like that. But as far as movies goes, yeah, there's a bunch of them that I've watched lots of times. I know there's people that don't like to rewatch things, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
a
What
rewatcher type of
movies?
person.
Give me your top three, or
Oh,
three in terms of frequency, not in terms of how much you like them, but how often you watch them.
like the three movies that I've watched the most.
Mhm.
Okay, I would say Remember the Titans is one of them. Um, Inception is one that I've watched a lot, and then hmm, and now that I said that a bunch, I can't even think of a third one. um, Hercules, actually, Hercules is probably the other movie that I've watched the most.
Just give me a second. I'm writing something down.
No, you're good. I can hear the pen going or whatever you're writing with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think are one of the themes that maybe overlap because I with the movies that you watch, or what draws you to those movies?
I think
Yeah.
the concept of like coming together for a greater cause is something that I always in that kind of gravitate towards, and just the whole concept of just like it's not about me, like willing to sacrifice yourself for the greater good type of thing, um, or at least to accomplish the overall goal. Because that's definitely what Remember the Times is like, right? They had to integrate the school, right, and then they were the first school that had to do that, and then obviously, at first, they didn't want to do that. White black players didn't want to have to play together. You know, they had a black head coach now. But then throughout the movie, right, they become like brothers. They defend each other, and through through the adversity they face, they come together and ultimately like accomplish their mission. Um, and then with Inception, right, just a bunch of ragtags that end up trying to get this whole plot done. Um, and people have to be sacrificed throughout the plot in order to end up accomplishing the mission at the end. Um, and but while the leader is still trying to overcome lots of different adversity as well, right? Like he has a lot of inner adversity. I think that's what I gravitate towards the most in Inception. It's just the inner battles that Leonardo DiCaprio's character has to face, and while still trying to lead this team. And then with Hercules is just again just the overcoming adversity in such a different way of he's trying to become a god again, right? He has to be a true hero in order to try to um, join his parents back again in Mount Olympus already. Well, again, but then throughout the whole story, right, he does all these heroic things that people would claim to be heroic, but it doesn't actually count as being a true hero until he does a selfless act at the end trying to rescue the girl that he likes, right? He was willing to sacrifice his own life for her, and then that's when that worked or whatever. But again, it's just the self-sacrifice itself. Um, yeah, just being willing to sacrifice your own needs for the greater good of someone else, or just an overarching goal of a team.
Why do you think self-sacrifice is something that is important, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
each one of those movies has its own kind of like sacrifice that needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how does, self-sacrifice play a role in your life, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's just in the manner that I carry myself. Like I'm always willing to, when we talked about our mission or how things work or how what I do, it always revolves around helping others and doing good for other people, and I'm just like I'm never hesitant to to help others or to reach out a hand to make sure someone gets to where they need to go, right? And like my life, as far as I can remember, has always been about helping someone else. Um, and it's not like it like I like the whole concept of it's not about me. I feel like it's something that's always been in my mind for some reason. Like I just it's not that I value my life any less than others, right? Or that I'm willing to or that I hate who I am as a person. I just feel, and I hate like saying it out loud, but I feel very selfless. Like I just don't really care about what I have to sacrifice or what I have to do to help someone else, but in turn of helping someone get to where they want to go or help them with anything, it gives me such a sense of fulfillment and such a greater sense of fulfillment than anything I do for myself that I just don't care as much to focus on my own things as much as I would to help others. And again, it's not in a way that I disregard my own well being because the more I've gone through this, the more I understand I have to take care of myself in order to be able to take care of others. But I feel like as far as credit, like giving someone credit or um, again helping someone accomplish their goal, I get much more fulfillment out of seeing other people succeed than seeing myself succeed.
So as you were saying that, one of the things that came to mind, I'm going to see how this comes out. It sounds good in my mind, but speaking it out loud might be something else. So let's say you were put in a situation, right, where like standing in front of you, you have two choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can help this person out with their needs. I'm not going to elaborate on that because it's just you can help them out, right?
Yep.
So selfless sacrifice there, and in turn, you give up doing, maybe like a something that would help you grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then whatever you pick is going to affect like downstream something that would happen. Um, and you weren't supposed to know this right at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but what if choosing yourself in that scenario would allow you to help 100 people down the
Mm-hmm.
road? And now that you do know this, you kind of what would you do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a very difficult question, right? It's like a do you rather yeah, I mean, I don't know. 'Cause I feel like I'm much of a more an immediate basis than I am a forward thinking type of person. That I mean, I don't know the situation, right? But I feel like even knowing that information, I would still lean to helping the person that's in need right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Because
I don't really know the
I mean, I guess
right
there's no
answer.
right answer, right? Like it's just whatever you think. But I don't know. I guess I'm much more of a tomorrow's not promised, right? So I'm gonna do what I can today type of thing. So it'd be hard for me to double cross that if I had that situation
Yeah.
because maybe I would help 100 people, but maybe I don't make it to that situation to come up, right? That's probably what would go on in my head.
Yeah. I, I'm just asking because, at one point, do you draw the
Do it
line,
all.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know you said, like I don't self-depreciate myself, but
Mm-hmm.
I do, value other people achieving their success almost more than I value, myself achieving a success. Of if there was a way to, make it so that it was on a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than it being equal, you would prefer it to weigh more on their side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to you, it's like, oh, it is what it is, right? I don't know. It just makes me wonder, because it's like, we talked about last time, how difficult it is to allow yourself to receive praise.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's for different reasons, but like from my perspective, we just had like a feedback session with our squads the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave us 45 minutes, and we got through two people in 45 minutes because we were given that feedback, right? And so we were
Mm-hmm.
like, well, when the day's over, let's meet back up together and do it. And so, I was the very last part because they went in alphabetical order, and nobody beats a Y except a Z.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody named Z with his, well, except for a dude named Zach, but
Fair enough.
but that's one dude, and he's not in my group, so it didn't even matter. But and they started giving me feedback, and the girl before me, her name is Sierra, and she was like, "Oh, it's so strange having all this attention on me. I don't like it." And I laughed, right? And then when
Mm-hmm.
it came to be my turn, like inside my head, I didn't say it out loud, but like I definitely, because they were complimenting me,
Mm-hmm.
they were saying really nice things about me, and it was like it was just intriguing,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's something that's so, I don't know, it feels foreign. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because it's so easy to usually just want to accept that you're doing what's expected of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually in my mind, like when I do stuff and I think back about it later, I was like, maybe I did this a little too much, or maybe I didn't do this enough, or maybe I did this. I rarely ever get that feeling of like, yeah, you put 100% of what you were capable of in that moment in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, maybe that's has something to do with expectations and, what I think I should be versus what I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe it was because, you know, when I look back on my life, I feel like maybe I didn't get praised enough for what I was doing. I was just expected to be doing the things that I was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like, okay, good. You got good grades, right? You got above B. You got some A's.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Pat on the back. Just move on. Go do kid stuff, right?
Yeah.
And if I got below a C, all hell broke loose. Or if I got a C, all hell broke
Yeah.
loose. And like, hell no.
Yeah. That's true.
Um, so I guess, that's kind of what I was thinking when you were talking about that. It was like, because you were talking about your legacy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a question that I wrote down is why do you think a legacy is worth contemplating, right? Um, and you also kind of talked about it a little bit because you're kind of saying people don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a fair fact, and it's like it made me think of another question. Is like, are you worth remembering?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I never really thought about it in that way of, you know, am I worth remembering, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting thought, but
Yeah. And I think that legacy of how did I make someone feel is what I'm much more um interested in, right? Like that's what I really care about. Because I feel like often when you talk about legacy, at least just out in just in your normal day or normal time, it could often be thought of as like what your legacy is what all you accomplish, right? Like what awards did you get? What positions did you hold? I feel like a lot of times it can revolve around your possessions and your titles, right? But that's not the legacy that I'm really concerned with. It's just more about that emotional legacy of how many people did I genuinely feel like I made an impact to, right? Like on a personal level, not on a position level type of thing.
Yeah, it's intriguing. It's intriguing because, like we have like all of these rewards and awards, right? All these recognitions, all these titles, all these abbreviations at the end of your name,
Mm-hmm.
sir this, doctor that, PhD
Mm-hmm.
in this. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what is this supposed to mean to me? You know,
Yeah.
what's this supposed to mean to anybody? It's like, you jumped in the right hoops and you got it.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's fair to say that, people is what I do it for because, you know, I like to think that just being remembered by a few people because, hey, I can make them laugh, or we really enjoyed working out together, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be.
Yeah.
He was a dude that had interesting conversations with, made me think about life. Because on my squads, like my squad mates, there was only three of them, because the other two couldn't make it. And then there was a couple that weren't in this week, like in these 2 weeks of training, so they were out doing whatever. But those three, they were like, "Yeah, dude, we feel like you always have this wisdom," and I was like, "Nah." Like inside my mind, I was like, "Y'all are lying." um,
Y'all really like gonna really lie to my face like that.
it was just kind of like one of those things where it was like, maybe because I've done a lot of dumb shit,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's why I think this way. Um, but they were like, you have a way of thinking about things that we think it's worth sharing,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever you share it, you're like, I definitely learned something new. And I was thinking about it, I was like, I felt super genuine when they said that, and it made me feel like a funky way. I don't know. Um, Maybe a little excited, maybe
Mm-hmm.
a little happy that, what I thought was always bad work ended up being something nice, at least for those three people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I guess it could come from a place where I felt like I never really thought anything that I said was worth listening to.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of why I prefer being quiet too. Just like kind of your train of thought too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah. I'll be honest. You know, I grew up in a household where, like, when adults were around, which is the only time you really had like intense conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it almost felt like kids weren't invited to those conversations
Mm-hmm.
because it's kid stuff. And so,
Yeah.
like, a few times trying to get in there and just kind of getting like slightly ignored because, like, what do I know about life?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now I could talk to my parents, and now that I know a little bit about something, right? I can't say I know a lot.
Yeah.
Um, like, they listen to me at a different level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that came by just having to live life or if that came through reflection and, and thinking about stuff or maybe asking the right questions and listening. And I know that there's so many components to it. Like, I don't know what changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something changed. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But
And for me, and this, like I'm a very emotional person, um, in all sense of the word. um, and maybe that's why I care about that so much. Um, and maybe that's why I have such a deeper connection to that. Um, and a lot of my decision making is all emotionally based, right? And I don't mean that as in if I'm angry, I'll make angry decisions, right? It's not like I don't think about my decisions, but it's more like I trust my gut instinct a lot. And more often than not, it leads me to where I need to go. And or really when I allow myself to listen to it, it's usually right. But when I don't listen to it, it's when I most regret things. But like I have friends who are very analytical and just have to analyze everything and really think things through, or things have to make perfect sense for them to take action in certain things. And it's just like I don't have that's just not me, right? Like I'm just much more. I connect with people and I connect with things and situations a lot more with my emotions than I do with my brain. I guess, does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah. I think it's important to have a balance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. One thing that always, uh, one thing that I thought was super interesting was an explanation of what Lucifer is, or
Mm-hmm.
what he represents, and he represents logic, and a logic that's so keen it happens to fall in love with itself
Mm-hmm.
and believe it's the answer. And I think about that sometimes because I think a lot. I think a lot, and sometimes to my own detriment, because I spend a lot of time in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why it's nice to work out because that gets me into my body. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I enjoy having a conversation because it pulls the thoughts out of here and materializes into whatever
Mm-hmm. At least out
whatever
of
we
your
take the
head.
conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, at least it's not in there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I don't know. I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, dang, because I can get it, dude. Like it's really easy to start, thinking that you have an answer, thinking that you're on to something here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you spend a lot of time up in there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, man. Um, I'll be honest. I have no idea where to take it from here because a lot of my questions I was kind of asking you as
As we went.
as a conversation was going, yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked you a couple of just questions to further the discussion, but um,
No, that's fair. Um, well, then maybe we'll dive into, just the concept of death, right? Contemplating when it's your time to go. I don't know. I don't know if you want to go down that path, but for a little
thought
bit
about
with
it the
me.
other day.
What?
I thought about it the other day.
So
I
what
was like,
what comes to mind then, or what were you thinking about?
no, the other day. I had a thought. I was like, I don't want a gravestone.
Okay.
I want a tree.
Ooh, that's cool.
And on the tree, I'm debating whether I would want like a cherry blossom or like an oak tree.
Hmm.
Um,
Cherry blossom would be dope.
yeah, it would be dope. And I was just gonna have like a plaque like put into the tree or something,
Hmm.
and not really have like much. I'd be like the quote that came to mind is like just like my name, right? And then in quotations, it was it's like even in death he tries to grow
Ooh.
because um, you know it's one of those things like I'm known by my friends here as like oh dude that's in the personal growth. And so
Hmm.
like I went to the library, the Barnes and Noble today with one of my squad mates in Shadid, and I was upstairs, you know, doing my own thing. I was trying to find the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu,
Hmm.
just because I'm really intrigued by it, and I almost bought it one time before, and I kind of regretted not buying it. So
Hmm.
there I was again trying to find it, and then I happened to find myself in the personal development section slash personal growth.
Yeah.
And she comes up behind me. She's like, "Oh well. How did I know that you were gonna be here?" And I was like, "Man, all right, just leave me alone. I was just looking at something, some
Don't
movie."
start shit right now.
Yeah, I was like, "Shit, all right, you caught me. I'm with the hand in the cookie jar." And and so that's why I kind of thought of that. I don't know. Obviously, this thought came a couple days ago when I was walking, but I don't know. You know, it seemed to fit right. You know what I mean? Because it's like
Hmm.
the concept of growing is something that I really appreciated because, you know, in a way, like growing is kind of like a embodiment of hope, right?
Hmm.
And at least from my perspective, right? I might be shooting from the hip with this one or speaking out of my ass, whichever saying you prefer to use. But it's like, you know, as you grow, you're changing your current circumstance. So if you're not pleased, or maybe it's not that you're not pleased with who you are at that moment, but you have this feeling that you can do more and you can be more, you know, which is something that I guess, you know, I have to balance trying to be more and, you know, being content of where I am too.
Hmm.
It's a balance that I have yet to find. But I don't know, you know, hope you kind of wish for something to happen, right? Something that's whether you're suffering in the moment or you just have belief that there's something greater going to happen in the future, right?
Hmm.
It's something that kind of carries you forward, right? And um, growing and becoming better and with just the conversations that I can have, the contributions that I can make, it seems, I don't know, to be kind of like, I guess, a personal motivator for myself. So,
Hmm.
um, kind of one of the reasons why I would like to have that quote on there
Hmm.
inscripted or something. It doesn't even have the need to have like the day I died or whatever. I don't really care about that, right?
Hmm. That's
Um,
just logistics, you
yeah, if they want to put that on there, they can, but just having a tree would be fine.
know.
I don't know, but what are your thoughts? I mean,
um, well, a type of dream that I've had most often in my entire life, that's the at least that I can remember, is me dying. Right? That's the type of dream I have the most often, um, and the ones I remember the most. Um, and it's always in various ways, right? Like it's very various like storyline type of dreams, but it's always on a sacrifice type of way. Like either shaming someone or um, doing something in that manner. That is just like a lot of self-sacrifice type of thing. And again, it kind of goes back to that whole theme of that I explored earlier. That it's that embedded that I dream of it. um, like I told you, I rely a lot on my gut feelings, and whenever I think of death and whenever I have those dreams in general, I get the gut feeling that that's how I'm gonna go, right? That I don't know when in my life, right? But it'll be in a manner or in a fashion or in a situation where I'll have to sacrifice my life for someone else. And I also get the feeling that I won't get to live till I'm very old. That not that I'm gonna die tomorrow, right? Or but I just have a feeling that I won't see as many years as some people might think I'll see, right? And I have nothing to back that up. There's nothing like and that's a pretty dark phrase, I guess, or thought to have in general, right? That it's like, oh, I'm not gonna live very long. But it anytime I think about it, I don't get I don't get a sense of dread, right? Like I don't get a sense of fear. I don't get a sense of worry. I get a sense of awe and a sense of just everything's gonna be okay, even if I don't make it as far as maybe I should. And to me, like that gives me such a freedom and such a desire to live. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, but like to live in the moment, right? And it's not like I don't get lazy, right? And there's times I don't want to do things, but that's not where I get my freedom of being in the moment, right? I get my freedom of being in the moment when I'm with people. Like I don't have a sense of like, oh, I really want to accomplish as much as I can, um, because I have all these things that I want to do and stuff. But it's more like I just really cherish the time I get to spend with others, and uh, and that doesn't mean like I don't. There's not things that I want to do in my life, and you know, different projects that I want to do and things I want to see. But at the end of the day, when I just contemplate on that, it always just boils down to just enjoying the time I have with the people around me. Because like we talked about it before, right? Like things you like tomorrow's not promised. And sometimes, when I think of like I want to be lazy or like I don't want to do a task, I allow myself sometimes to be okay with that because I'll spend that time hanging out with someone, right? And at the end of the day, I'll value this time I spent with those people a lot more than I'll value getting my homework done or getting at that task done that day. And I don't know, it's a very confusing mindset, a very confusing um, just thing to think about in general. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you like I've had this all figured out and I kind of know what it all means, right? But but I don't know. That's something that's been on my mind a lot, especially the last year or so. Especially, with losing a couple people in my life, and then um, just some other things that I've had to go through as well, or that I've seen close people to me have to go through that have just made me harness on that feeling a little bit more, but in a positive way, not a negative way.
Is that the end of your
Yeah,
thought?
yeah.
Okay. You know, um, it's interesting that you have dreams like that a lot of you dying. Because I've always had like these weird daydreams where like my mind will start wandering, and I'll just imagine like me put in this like ridiculous situation where I'm forced to sacrifice my life and you know save somebody else from dying, or like what happened if I got jumped right now, and I'd be like, and I was with somebody, and you know that Yaid is a heroic Yaid, right? Because every time like a situation like that happens, he's like, "Go, I'll protect you,"
Hmm.
and then he dies, right? And it's like, for a while, I thought I was just like, "Man, this just happens to me." This, I guess not. I guess I'm not the only one
Yeah.
that thinks about dying and all the things, but but I think it's interesting that you know you you kind of use it as a way to remind you of the time that you have is limited, right?
Hmm.
And as you were talking, it made me think of the quote. I think it was by Confucius. I might be getting that wrong, but every man has two lives, and the second one begins when he realizes he really only has one. And it's like, damn, maybe in some strange way, constantly thinking of, when you're gonna die and what's gonna happen, you know, I don't know, I guess, it could be a reminder, right? Like, hey, don't forget,
Hmm.
you can die, and I don't know, man. I think it's important to contemplate your mortality because it like who I've had a lot of people talk about like you need to die in order to live,
Hmm.
and not like a real death, but a kind of an emotional, spiritual death or something, or like
Hmm.
a
Like an ego death or
yeah, you
something
can
like
you
that.
can use that. I feel like the verbiage kind of changes,
I
but
agree.
there's something there, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that much is true, and how many people truly contemplate what it means to die, other than saying I can fail, and I don't want to think of death, but there's different cultures that celebrate death, right?
Hmm.
It's like the passage into another life, or it's a passage into somewhere better, right? Nobody really knows.
Yeah.
How can you begin to formulate an idea or a plan without contemplating it, right?
Hmm. You know how often you hear the phrase is like start with the end in mind, right? It's like, well, if you're gonna approach things like that, you gotta approach your life that way as well.
Mm-hmm. It's like um, plan your life as if you're gonna live forever, and then live your life as if you're gonna die today or whatever.
Hmm.
I don't know who said that one, but
Yeah.
you know that one came to mind too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to just throw a bunch of quotes at you because I don't know
Yeah.
what to say, right? But I think
Yeah.
the quotes kind of capture this idea of seeing mortality and not being afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's like hello, old friend. I knew you were gonna come back to me. Like, have you ever seen the picture of the like artistic representation of life and death? And it shows like these two, people. Well, one of them is like a woman, and she has beautiful hair, and she's standing there, and she represents life, right? Like you see like birds in her hair. You see kind of like flowers on her. You see leaves as robes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see death. And then he has like this dark hood, right? Kind of like grim Reaper style.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really see his face, and it almost looks like a skeleton, right? Um, and and I think in the picture you see this turtle walking
Mm-hmm.
towards death, and I think like there's like a I don't know like a subtitle or like a little line or two of text that talks about how life sends or like life sends like a whole bunch of things to death or something like that, and death cherishes him for the rest of his life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, man. But like I think of that picture a lot. Like I can't say I know why, but I just figured I'd share. But anyways, you know, it's just interesting to think about because there's so many people that suffer in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some might be emotional suffering, some might be physical suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and death seems like almost like an escape to all of it.
Mm-hmm. And we get to choose how we view death, right? A lot of people, I don't want to generalize, I guess, but it seems common that most people don't like to think about death or contemplate death because of its uncertainty, right? Like because of the sadness that comes with death or the
What do you leave
the
behind?
the loss of death, right? But exactly. But there can be such, I don't want to say joy, but like there's many things that can good things that can come from death as well. As weird as that sounds, right? Like that's just life, right? We need things die in order for other things to live, right? And like, I just had Selma, my girlfriend, her aunt passed away from cancer, and she was gone for a week and came back and was just telling me stories. And then she's telling me one in specific that stuck out to me about her mom that she was crying, and then in the car ride, um, one of her aunts asked her mom, "Is like, hey, are you?" Or someone asked her, "Is like, hey, are you crying because you're sad, right?" And she's like, "No, like I'm crying tears of joy because I'm happy for her that she's in a better place now. Because I'm happy that her pain is gone now. She doesn't have to suffer anymore, right?" Yeah, they were very spiritual and religious family, right? So it's like, she's in heaven now and she can walk again. She can, dance around and do whatever she wants. And to me, that brings me tears of joy, right? And there's a selfishness that comes with death because ultimately we don't know what happens to that person, right? We don't know what happens after our lights go out. But the selfishness comes because we're sad because we miss the way we interact with that person, right? We're sad because we'll miss the memories or we miss our time with them. But we can also be happy, right? Again, it's like be happy with what you got the opportunity to have, right? Be happy, or it's okay to mourn, right? But death isn't just sad, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to me because, in a way, like, just to go back to the phrase, I'm sorry for your loss.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you lose? Was it ever yours to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what in this life is actually yours? You know, and I think it was really powerful how you kind of, mentioned that. It's like you mourn at the fact that you can no longer experience their presence or experience being with them, right? Like, there's a part of your life that you'll never have a chance of reliving or
Mm-hmm.
re-experiencing. It's like a door's been shut, right? Like, I'm gonna pose a question: is like, was it ever actually yours to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. That's your question to answer yourself, right?
Yeah, it's like
I'd like
it's
to say
like what in
no,
this
like it
world
was
is.
never it was never my life to begin with, but
Yeah, it's like you come into this world without having chosen to come here.
mm-hmm.
You're living in this life with some, but not complete ownership of. Well, you got ownership. You can decide whether you want to own it or not, but based on your circumstances and based on the knowledge of what you have and all these other factors, like, it's not like you have unlimited possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't want to leave, or maybe some people do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like you said, it kind of comes down to a choice, right? I think they're all interesting thoughts, right? I think they're all worth contemplating because, like, what do we own in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we truly own anything? I don't think I own anything.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Oof.
That's a whole nother conversation.
No, because I think it's interesting, right? Because it's like, I'm sorry for your loss, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I can, you know, top anything other than a story. A part about that you were talking about someone's mom.
Hmm.
It almost made me cry, dude.
I mean, I'd cry. I was tearing up when I was hearing all these stories. So
I
yeah.
wanted to cry just a second ago. I was like, please stop. You're about to make me cry on camera, bro.
Mhm.
Um, no, but it was. I appreciate you sharing that because it, you know, captures the thought you're trying to push, right?
Mhm.
In a way, you get to define what death means. Um, I don't
And
know, in a way that's a pretty beautiful thing because nobody really knows. It's one of the things nobody really can like be
mhm.
like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. And I kind of want to leave you with this, right? So for the funeral, I was asked to help them make a tribute type of video, like a memorial type of video, that encompassed a bunch of different photos that they've had for yeah of her throughout the years and stuff like that, right? And I said yes, of course, because I wanted to help in whatever way I can. But you know, doing that video, right? The first thought that I was like, who am I to try to sum up her life, someone who I didn't really know in a video form from these pictures, right? Like that's a tall order, right? If you really think about it, it's like wow, like I'm supposed to, well, at least like the way I like took it upon myself is like I want to capture her, right? I want to capture the joy that her life brought to people and the people she was with, and just her in her own life in general. And it ended up being it's about a 13-minute video that uses three different songs, and the way I structured it without even really meaning to highlights different points at different times of that video and hits, and I don't know how to even describe it, right? Like it just seems to hit the right photo at the right song at the right time, right? So by when I was done and I looked at it, right, and I'm looking at this from like an outsider's perspective, truly, because I don't think I ever met the lady. I think I might have met her once, but so it's basically a true outsider's perspective, right, on trying to encompass someone's life in a video. And after finishing it and watching it, I was like, I felt joy, right? It's like not joy of her passing away, but I was like joy as in it looked like she lived a full life, right? Like she got to she got to bring a lot of joy to a lot of people, and it seemed like she enjoyed what she was doing a lot of the time. And then obviously they watched it and they shared it and they thanked me or whatever. And Selma was telling me how emotional it was, but how much they all liked it, and you know how much I enjoyed relishing in the snapshot memories, right? Because it was 6 seconds per photo, so it's just quick snapshots, right, of 50 years of someone's life. And even though she had passed away, it brought happy memories, right? And then to me, I was like, well, then job well done, right? Like I was able to. convey your life in a positive way that made people forget about the pain of having to lose someone, right? But be more on just reflecting on the good and the positive of it. And that whole experience of just trying to sum up someone's life in 3 songs and I don't know, probably like 100 pictures, 50 years worth of life will get you reflecting on things in a whole another level. So just kind of wanted to share that experience with you.
Damn, dude. Damn. I don't think I really have anything I can truly say to that. I'm not gonna lie.
It's okay. I think we've given the people enough to kind of contemplate on this week. Then we give each other enough to contemplate on this week.
Yeah.
Any parting words for the people before we let them go?
I think maybe asking yourself the question: are you living a life that's worthy of others to remember you by? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and essentially that's your legacy, right? I mean, you can build buildings, you can have statues made after you, you can gain titles so that when they award the title to the next person, they'll have your name attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the people that are truly going to remember you are the people that were impacted by you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Impacted by you, correct? So, you know, are you worthy? Are you worth remembering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nobody's really qualified to give you that answer except for yourself, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
let it be some food for thought. But that's really all I got, man. Thank you for sharing and for the wonderful conversation, bro.
Yeah, for sure. And we appreciate you all if you stuck around and kind of watched this whole video. We hope you were able to take something away, or at least we got you thinking about something that maybe you hadn't thought of before. But yeah, that's all we got for you this week. Um, yeah, have a great week. Really contemplate those questions that we've asked, and we'll see you again next week. Peace out.